Will the House please come to order and members kindly take their seats? Good afternoon. The devotional today will be led by Representative Ray Garofano of Essex.
As the world awakens with the first breath of spring, we celebrate Nowruz, the Persian New Year, a time of renewal, reflection, and hope. The word Nowruz means new day, and its arrival invites us all to embrace the beauty of beginnings and the promise of growth. Rooted in ancient traditions, this day reminds us that just as the earth transforms with the changing seasons, so too can we cultivate love, gratitude, and connection. Nowruz calls us to prepare for the new year by cleansing our homes and hearts, seeking reconciliation, and planting seeds of kindness and generosity. The Hafseen, a traditional table with 7 symbolic items, embodies values such as patience, health, prosperity, and rebirth, guiding us to live with intention and purpose. This is a moment to celebrate life's gifts, honor the past, and step forward with hope for a brighter future. I would like to now share a translation of a poem by Feridun Moshiri, a Persian poet, called Bahar Ra Bavar Kon, or Believe in the Spring. Open the windows, for the kind breeze is celebrating the birthday of the beautiful flowers. And spring, on each and every branch, close to each young leaf, has turned on lovely candles. All swallows have come back singing the lovely song of freshness. Our narrow street is filled with spring songs, and the cherry trees are all blossoms, to celebrate the birthday of every flower. Open the windows, my friend. Do you ever remember that a wild thirst burnt our earth and all the leaves faded away? Do you ever remember what the bad thirst did with the liver of the soil? Do you ever remember what the hands of the bad cold did with our grapevines, and what the unkind wind did with our flowers in the middle of the dark nights? Do you ever remember that? Now, believe in the miracle of the rain and look at the generosity in the eyes of the green meadow, and see the affection in the soul of the kind breeze that, with all her empty-handedness, is celebrating the birthday of the young flowers. The soil is alive again. Why have you turned into silent stones? Why are you so frustrated? Open the windows and believe in the spring. Nowruz reminds us that in every ending, there's a new beginning. Just as winter gives way to spring, our struggles and losses pave the way for growth and renewal. Let us trust in the cycles of life and open our hearts to the beauty of change. This Nowruz, may we all embrace the opportunity to start anew, to nurture hope, and to spread light and love in our communities. May we carry the spirit of Nowruz, renewal, gratitude, and hope throughout the year. Nowruz Mubarak to all.
Members, we have one House bill for introduction today. That is House Bill 490, which is an act relating to incentivizing community service sentencing in certain cases, introduced by Representative Boslin of Westminster and others. Please listen to the first reading of the bill.
H490, an act relating to incentivizing community service sentencing in certain cases.
Now the bill has been read the first time and is referred to the Committee on Judiciary. Members, we have two bills on our notice calendar that carry an appropriation, and they are therefore referred to the Committee on Appropriations pursuant to House Rule 35A. They are House Bill 481, which is an act relating to stormwater management, and House Bill 488, which is an act relating to the fiscal year 2026 transportation program and miscellaneous changes to laws related to transportation. Members, we now have a joint Senate resolution to take up at this time. JRS 15 is a joint resolution supporting Vermont's transgender and non-binary community and declaring Vermont's commitment to fighting discrimination and treating all citizens with respect and dignity. It was offered by Senator Hardy and others and was adopted on the part of the Senate. Please listen to the reading of the resolution by title only.
JRS 15, joint resolution supporting Vermont's transgender and non-binary community and declaring Vermont's commitment to fighting discrimination and treating all citizens with respect and dignity.
Now the resolution has been read for the first time and is treated as a bill and referred to the Committee on Judiciary pursuant to House Rule 52. Are there any announcements? Member from Essex.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Today I have with me a special guest, Teresa. Teresa has lived in Vermont for 18 years, but became homeless after falling ill, which is especially challenging because her medical needs require electricity. She also is a caretaker of her adult son living with disabilities, and he would not make it if left by himself. She has applied for every available apartment, but rents are too high and there is just no availability. I invite my fellow members to join me in commending the strength it takes to raise and care for a child with disabilities, and she is doing it while facing very tough circumstances.
Will the guest member from Essex please rise and be recognized? Member from Colchester.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Today I have a guest with me. Her name is Lynn. Lynn was born and raised in Vermont. She became homeless after being evicted, although her rent was always completely paid. Lynn has had her own business for many years in Johnson. Lynn lives with disabilities and continues to work. Lynn works with case workers and applies for every available apartment, but has come up short. If nothing changes, Lynn will end up living outside on April 1st. Will the members please join me in thanking Lynn for being here and sharing her courage today?
Will the guest and the member from Colchester please rise and be recognized? Member from Colchester. Sorry, my apologies, Winooski.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Today I'm rising to introduce Alexis, my guest who is a lifelong Vermonter, born in Burlington and raised in Colchester. Alexis has a severe neck injury caused by domestic violence that has left her permanently disabled. She is also the mom of a 13-year-old. Alexis lost her home after experiencing fraud. She is a champion of courage and should be commended. If nothing changes, in April, Alexis and her child will be left to find a way to survive outside. Please join me in welcoming Alexis to the People's House. Thank you.
Will the guest and the member from Winooski please rise and be recognized? Member from Montpelier.
Madam Speaker, today I have a guest with me, John. John became homeless after his rent was doubled. He was working full-time, but still could not afford the rent. John grew up in Brattleboro, Vermont. He's getting support from service providers and is on every available wait list, but so far has not found an apartment to live in. John is working every single day to exit homelessness. but if nothing changes, he will be forced to live outside in early April by no fault of his own. I invite the members to welcome our fellow hardworking Vermonter in commending his bravery and facing tough circumstances today.
Will the guest of the member from Montpelier please rise and be recognized? Member from Rutland City.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd like to have the House welcome back a couple old friends. Paul Clifford, who served in the House here last year, is now serving and elected at the Rutland City Board of Aldermen. He is passed on the Board of Select Board of Rutland Town and also the Rutland Public Works Commissioner. Additionally, I'd like to welcome back Larry Coopely, an old friend to many, known as Coop. He represented Rutland from 2013 to 2023. He left us with being the vice chair of the House Education Committee. Bet you're glad you're not doing that now. The House Ethics Committee. He's a retired U.S. Air Force veteran and now currently serves on the Board of Aldermen in Rutland City. I hope that we'd all welcome our old friends back.
Will the former members please rise and be recognized? Member from Derby.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd like to recognize a constituent of mine. They got you pegged. The reason he's probably responsible for me being here because he tapped me on the shoulder when he was ready to retire. Brian, been a select board member in the town of Derby for years. And then he followed in his father's footsteps, Kerm Smith, and became a legislator here in the People's House for 8 years. I know I've heard he was noted for some of his sayings, but I was told I couldn't repeat any of them here on the floor. After spending a month in St. Kitts, recharging his batteries, he came home to find ample snow and carried on the Bill Carr Skidoo expedition up in the Great Northeast Kingdom. And anyways, he came back here today to see his friends in the House. So I'd like to extend a warm welcome to our esteemed retired colleague, Brian Smith.
Will the former member please rise and be recognized? Member from Burlington. No? Member from Essex Junction. Essex.
Just Essex. I have an unexpected guest. My very best friend, my lifelong best friend, who broke my heart when she moved away to New Jersey 15 years ago, originally from Rutland, Vermont, has decided that Vermont is where her heart is and is moving back. And apparently she has joined us in the chamber today. Would you please, please welcome back to Vermont my best friend, Tammy Whelan.
Would the guest of the member from Essex please rise and be recognized? Member from Jericho.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I think folks saw that Ben & Jerry's was in the card room today and had ice cream for us in the cafeteria. And if you were wondering why they were here, I just wanted to share. They're here to talk about their Caring Dairy program. So Ben & Jerry's likes to make sure that when they're successful, the businesses who support them and who are their suppliers are also successful, and they work very hard to do that. So I'm just going to read a little bit about why they're here. Ben & Jerry's holds a profound appreciation and respect for the crucial role that dairy farming plays to Vermont's rural economies, landscapes, and the environment. Vermont has an opportunity to set the standard for the dairy industry across farm economics, farm labor, animal care, regenerative agricultural practices, and other, I'm going to stop reading after this, and other interventions that lower greenhouse gas emissions from dairy farming. They believe that moving Vermont's dairy industry in this direction puts Vermont's dairy farmers on a sustainable path, economically and environmentally for the future. And Tom is here from Ben & Jerry's, and if folks would like to welcome him to the People's House, that would be fantastic. Thank you.
Will the guest member from Jericho please rise and be recognized? Member from Burlington.
Thanks, Madam Speaker. So over the past few days, we've had the privilege to be introduced to many people currently living in our emergency motel program, but we haven't been introduced to any of the hundreds of people who are currently unsheltered and who have fallen through the cracks. And part of the reason why is it's hard for us to find them when they want to participate. It's harder to get people here. And it's harder for people to get to their appointments, their jobs, their family events when they're unsheltered. And so I wanted to just take a moment to acknowledge them, because we have a chance to not only help the over 1,000 people, of which you've only met a few, but also to bring those hundreds back in. We can do so much more. And so, Madam Speaker, I want to remind members that they got an email a few days ago including a resolution that would declare the lack of affordable housing a public health emergency, and that would unite us to finally take action to move forward, to go beyond emergency assistance, but to truly guarantee shelter and housing for all. So please, members, consider signing onto this resolution. We can do this. Thank you.
Are there any further announcements? Member from Waterbury.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Today, as we heard just a few minutes ago, is the Persian New Year, but today is also the first day of spring, and among those memorable events is the birthday of one of our members who is a delight to have on my committee, I will say, and we would love to welcome, we would love to wish, we're all doing welcomes, we would love to wish the member from Northfield a very happy birthday.
Wow. Happy birthday, member. Are there any further announcements? Seeing none. Orders of the day. Members, will start with House Bill 474, which is an act relating to miscellaneous changes in election law. Member from Vergennes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Your Committee on Government Operations and Military Affairs requests that we postpone action on H474 2 legislative days.
The member from Vergennes moves that we postpone action on House Bill 474 until next Tuesday. Are you ready for the question? If so, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and you have postponed action on House Bill 474 until next Tuesday. Next is House Bill 244, which is an act relating to state contracting standards for advertising. Member from Vergennes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Your Committee on Government Operations and Military Affairs requests that we postpone action on H244 3 legislative days.
The member from Vergennes moves that we postpone action on House Bill 244 until next Wednesday. Are you ready for the question? If so, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and you have postponed action on House Bill 244 until next Wednesday. Next is House Bill 80, which is an act relating to the Office of the Healthcare Advocate. Please listen to the third reading of the bill.
H80, an act relating to the Office of the Healthcare Advocate.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Are you ready for the question? If so, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and you have passed the bill. Next is House Bill 209, which is an act relating to intranasal epinephrine in schools. Please listen to the third reading of the bill.
H209, an act relating to intranasal epinephrine in schools.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Are you ready for the question? If so, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and you have passed the bill. Next is House Bill 219, which is an act relating to creating a family support pilot program for incarcerated parents and guardians. Please listen to the third reading of the bill.
H219, an act relating to creating a family support pilot program for incarcerated parents and guardians.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Are you ready for the question? If so, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. Nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and you have passed the bill. Up next is House Bill 222, which is an act relating to participation in a domestic violence accountability program as a condition of a final relief from abuse prevention order. Please listen to the third reading of the bill.
H222, an act relating to participation in a domestic violence accountability program as a condition of a final relief from abuse prevention order.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Are you ready for the question? If so, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and you have passed the bill. Next is House Bill 243, which is an act relating to the regulation of business organizations. Please listen to the third reading of the bill.
H243, an act relating to the regulation of business organizations.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Are you ready for the question? If so, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and you have passed the bill. Next, we will turn to House Bill 342, which is an act relating to protecting the personal information of certain public servants. Member from Coventry.
Madam Speaker, in order for your Committee on Commerce and Economic Development have time to review an amendment that we understand is coming, I ask that we delay action on H342 for one legislative day.
The member from Coventry moves that we postpone action on House Bill 342 for one legislative day. Are you ready for the question? If so, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and you have postponed action on House Bill 342 for one legislative day. Up next is House Bill 480, which is an act relating to miscellaneous amendments to education law. The bill was introduced by the Committee on Education. The member from Cornwall, Representative Conlon, will speak for the committee. Please listen to the second reading of the bill.
H480, an act relating to miscellaneous amendments to education law.
Member from Cornwall.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. H480 is, in fact, what it says. It is a collection of proposals that are quite miscellaneous in nature. It can be found using the legislative bill search function. And if you'd like to follow along with me, I'll be going section by section. Beginning with Section 1. Section 1 delays a couple of dates that were created in Act 29 of 2023, our School Safety Act. These two date delays are to better reflect reality on the ability of schools to meet the regulations. These delays would include delaying the adoption of all hazards emergency operations plans by all schools. The second delay listed there delays the deadline to develop, adopt, and ensure implementation of policies and procedures for the use of behavior threat assessment teams. Section 2 of the bill essentially eliminates the names of colleges in Vermont, post-secondary institutions in Vermont that have closed. This list is under post-secondary schools that are accredited in Vermont. The point being here is to not only clean up the language, but to really prevent nefarious actors from creating diploma mills where they can claim that the name of that college is on the books as an accredited college in Vermont. Section 3 of the bill cleans up the public bid process for non-food related items within the school nutrition purchasing program. This program has evolved with changes in 2017 and 2019 with some inadvertent complications that were created. The language that is both deleted and created in this section of the bill would essentially say that all non-food purchases would follow the same state requirements as other school purchases, meaning instead of needing a refrigerator under this program, previously it came under the sort of the food regulations, it would put it more under like the ability to buy textbooks. And it would clarify that all food purchases would continue to be exempt from state requirements and would follow federal requirements. This maintains the current policy of encouraging local purchasing by not creating additional state-imposed administrative burdens on food procurement. Section 4 makes some additions in Title 16 to the area that we call the flexible pathways. If you were to go to that section of Title 16, you will see a number of listed flexible pathways for education, including dual enrollment, early college, and virtual learning. While dual enrollment and early college both have further sections that really define what it is, while virtual learning was really sort of left just as virtual learning. This addition would better define what is meant by virtual learning. And I would say that one of the key features of that would be to define it as that the experience occurs under the supervision of an appropriately licensed educator and aligns with state expectation standards as adopted by the agency and the State Board of Education. Section 6 makes some changes in a bill we passed last year allowing the formation of boards of cooperative education services. Within the bill passed last year, we created a grant program that would allow groups of districts that want to come together to form what we call a BOCES, that they could apply for $10,000 in financial assistance upon completion of their Articles of Agreement. The change proposed here would allow those districts to apply for those grants funds before creating their Articles of Agreement. The challenge is that the legal legwork involved in creating these articles are expensive, and that is often the barrier to moving forward. So therefore, this really just changes the time at which a group of districts could apply for and receive grant funding to before the Articles of Agreement are put together. Section 7 is again back in the flexible pathways language that we have in Title 16, And it essentially, among the various requirements that it requires that one works with every student in grades 7 through 12 in an ongoing personalized learning planning process that, and then new language, identifies career and post-secondary planning options using resources provided pursuant to a part below, pursuant to resources provided to the subdivision shall include information regarding the admissions process and requirements necessary to proceed with any and all military-related opportunities. This is just to clarify that when creating personalized learning plans, that they need to include exposure to those options. Section 8 of this miscellaneous ed bill would essentially require the State Board of Education to begin a search for a Secretary of Education within 60 days upon the departure of the current secretary. This was prompted back when previous Secretary Dan French had left, and it was unclear as to whether the State Board could begin their search or if they needed to wait for direction from the governor to begin the search. Ultimately, what we ended up with was a year where we only had an interim Secretary of Education. This would essentially make very clear that the State Board, which forwards 3 candidates to the governor to choose from, would begin that search within 60 days of the departure of the current secretary. Madam Speaker, we heard from a number of witnesses as we put this together, including legislative counsel, the member from Berkshire, the interim deputy secretary of the Agency of Education, the interim director of communications and legislative affairs at the Agency of Education, the executive director of the Vermont Learning Collaborative, the superintendent of the Mountain Views Supervisory Union, the executive director of the Vermont Principals Association, the political director of the Vermont National Education Association, the director of the Vermont Retirement Systems Office of State Treasurer, and a representative from Action Circles. The committee vote on this was 11-0, and we look forward to the body's support.
And now the member from Berry City, Representative Booton, offers an amendment that is printed in today's calendar. Member from Berry City.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you for allowing me to speak on this an extremely important topic for my district and for many other districts in the state of Vermont. Before I dig in, may I read a portion of 3 articles from local news outlets?
You may.
Thank you. First, Vermont Public. Vermont has 10% fewer educators than it did before the pandemic. That's the worst mark in the country, save Alaska, according to the recent U.S. Department of Education report. The decline is prompting some Vermont principals to hire teachers with fewer qualifications, and in some cases, forcing schools to send kids home for a day. VT Digger, at least 3 school districts are warning parents that due to a lack of staff, their children may not receive the special education services they're legally entitled to. WCAX, with dozens of open educator positions, some in the field are planning how to keep recent education graduates working in the state. Data from the U.S. Department of Education shows Vermont has the 2nd lowest recovery rate in the country when it comes to returning to pre-pandemic staffing levels. I asked the body, of these 3 articles, which were written during the 2021 to 2022 legislative session? None. They were all written in 2024. The interim educator bill was introduced in January 2022 as H572. In fact, my esteemed colleague, the representative from Randolph, co-sponsored the bill. It sailed through the House and Senate and was signed by Governor Scott on June 2nd, 2022. The Berry Unified Union School District used this program to bring out of retirement an extremely seasoned superintendent. For those who don't know, last year, our superintendent resigned right after town meeting day, forcing us to conduct an expedited search process. We also failed our budget 3 times last year. In June 2024, we hired our current superintendent under the interim educator program. She helped us pass our budget in September, and under her leadership, she successfully passed, excuse me, she successfully passed this year's budget by a large margin. She has brought much needed stability to our district, all because of the legislature's decision to pass H572 in 2022. I'm hopeful that this legislature will do it again. So let's dig into the amendment, and I will tell you what it does. It actually is pretty simple. It extends the sunset of the program from 2025 to 2027. It adjusts the approval date by 1 month to align with hiring practices, and it removes the position change requirement, which will allow an educator to remain in a position for more than 1 year. Those simple things are the change, but believe me, they have a big impact. I do want to address some concerns. Some have expressed concerns about incentivizing retirement. This was a concern in 2022 as well. However, based on the information from the Treasurer's Office, only 7 people utilized the program in 2022, 5 in 2023, and 3 last year. This legislation has not and will not impact the retirement practices. If it ever does, there is a safeguard. The treasurer has the authority to shut it down before it gets out of hand. Others worry that this could negatively impact the pension fund. According to an email from the director of Vermont Retirement Systems, the fiscal impact is limited due to built-in safeguards and low participation, which, I'm sorry, a negative impact would only occur if retirement practices changed, which, as I already noted, they have not. I do want to note that the district will pay into the plan while the educator is employed. Most common concern I've heard, though, has been double dipping. And my response is yes, I fully acknowledge the white elephant in the room and ask that you move beyond it, as did the legislature in 2022. The program is an incentive to bring experienced educators out of retirement, and it does not financially impact the education fund, which drives our tax rates in the state of Vermont. Finally, while the education shortage remains, uncertainty in our schools has only increased, compounded by our continued efforts to improve Vermont's education system. I hope this legislature recognizes the shifting winds and gives our districts a cost-effective tool to address staffing shortages. I know many of us here serve dual roles. I ask that we vote yes on this amendment to give our school boards a powerful tool to support Vermont students. I also ask for a roll vote. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The member from Berry City requests that when the vote is taken, it be taken by roll. Is the member sustained? The member is sustained. When the vote is taken, it will be taken by roll. Member from, will the House please come to order? Member from Cornwall.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I would like to thank the member from Berry City for talking to us about this. We first considered it as part of H480, which we're talking about right now, but ultimately the committee decided to remove it after taking some testimony from the State Treasurer's Office Pension Division, as well as the Vermont Principals Association, which was one of the chief promoters of the interim educator law to begin with. This was really a COVID era or a coming out of COVID era program that was put in place out of fear that as we sort of returned to full strength education, that we would be seeing a teacher shortage and an educator shortage and an administrator shortage. While those are certainly concerns, as the member explained, the uptake of this program has not been what everybody thought it would be. To give some explanation, what this has allowed, and it sunsets this year, is for a retired educator, whether it be an administrator or a teacher, to come out of retirement and work for 1 year period in one position without it affecting their pension. So in other words, they could collect both the salary of the position as well as their full pension. It was limited to that 1 year so as to not induce behavior that would have people think that this could be a sort of post-retirement or post-early retirement career path. The amendment before us not only delays the sunset of this program by 2 years, but eliminates that requirement that those taking advantage of it can only remain in a position for 1 year. I just want to make very clear to the body that a retired educator is always welcome to rejoin the workforce. Rejoin the workforce and collect a full salary and full benefits, and they can pause their pension. The concept of working multiple years while collecting both full pension and full salary, I think is part of the reason why the House Education Committee voted 9-2 to find this amendment unfavorable, and we urge the body to vote no on the amendment. Thank you.
The question is, shall the bill be amended as offered by the member from Berry City? Are you ready for the question? If so, will the clerk please call the roll?
Arsenault of Williston.
2 minutes. Will the House please come to order and members kindly take their seats? Will the House please come to order? I would like to remind members that we are in the middle of a roll call vote. Members and guests are prohibited from using computers, phones, or any type of electronic device. Please refrain from the passing of notes and conversation during a roll call. And when the clerk calls your name, please answer in a loud and clear voice so the clerk can accurately record your votes. The question is, shall the bill be amended as offered by the member from Berry City? Will the clerk please continue to call the roll?
Austin of Colchester. Bailey of Hyde Park. Bartholomew of Heartland. Bartley of Fairfax. Rebecca of Winooski. Byrong of Regents. Bishop of Colchester. Black of Essex. Bloomley of Burlington. Boslin of Westminster. Bosch of Clarendon. Booton of Berry City. Boyden of Cambridge. Brady of Williston. Brannigan of Georgia. Brown of Richmond. Burdett of West Rutland. Burke of Brattleboro. Burkhardt of South Burlington. Burrows of West Windsor. Burt of Cabot. Campbell of St. Johnsbury. Canfield of Fairhaven. Karras Duncan of Whitingham. Casey Montpelier. Casey Hubbardton. Chapin of East Montpelier. Charlton of Chester. Christie of Hartford. Chino of Burlington. Coffin of Cavendish. Cole of Hartford. Conlon of Cornwall. Cooper of Pownell. Corcoran of Bennington. Gordas of Bristol. Critchlow of Colchester. Tamar of Venusburg. Dickinson of St. Albans Town. Dobrovich of Williamstown. Dodge of Essex. Dodge of Essex. Dolan of Essex Junction. Dolgan of St. Johnsbury. Donahue of Northfield. Duke of Burlington. Durfee of Shaftesbury. Eastis of Guilford. Emmons of Springfield. Feltus of Linden. Galfetti of Barrytown. Garifano of Essex. Goldman of Rockingham. Goodnow of Brattleboro. Ghostland of Northfield. Granting of Jericho. Greer of Bennington. Gregoire of Fairfield. Hengo Berkshire. Harpole of Glover. Harrison of Chittenden. Harvey of Castleton. Hedrick of Burlington. Higley of Lowell. Holcomb of Norwich. Hooper of Randolph. Hooper of Burlington. Houghton of Essex Junction. Howard of Rutland City. Holland of Rutland Town. Hunter of Manchester. James of Manchester. Kosenska of Burke. Keyser of Rutland City. Kimball of Woodstock. Klepner of Burlington. Kornheiser of Brattleboro. Krasnow of South Burlington. Labor Morgan. Lally of Shelburne. Lalone of South Burlington. Lamont of Morristown. LaResh of Franklin. Lipsky of Stowe. Logan of Burlington. Long of Newfane. Luno of St. Albans City. McGuire of Rutland City. Millay of Pittsford. Marcotte of Coventry. Maslin of Thetford. McCann of Montpelier. McCoy of Pulteney. McFawn of Barrytown. McGill of Bridport. Nicholas of Milton. Mahali of Calais. Minier of South Burlington. Morgan L. of Milton. Morgan M. of Milton. Morse of Springfield. Morrissey of Bennington. Moore of Weston. Rowicki of Putney. Nelson of Derby. Nielsen of Brandon. Niagara of Bennington. North of Ferrisburg. Noyes of Wolcott. Nugent of South Burlington. O'Brien of Tunbridge. Odie of Burlington. Oliver of Sheldon. Olson of Starksboro. Page of Newport City. Parsons of Newberry. Pezzo of Colchester. Pincenall of Dorset. Pouch of Heinsberg. Powers of Waterford. Priestley of Bradford. Pritchard of Paulet. Quimby of Linden. Rachelson of Burlington. Stackwitz of Randolph. Shy of Middlebury. Sheldon of Middlebury. Sibilia of Dover. Southworth of Wadham. Squirrel of Underhill. Steady of Milton. Stevens of Waterbury. No. Stone of Burlington. No. Supernon of Barnard. No. Sweeney of Shelburne. No. Taglavia, Corinth. No. Taylor of Milton. No. Tomlinson of Winooski. No. Toof of St. Albans Town. Yes. Tory-Moore Town. No. Walker of Swanton. Wazza Zackleberry City. No. Waters Evans Charlotte. No. Wells of Brownington. Yes. White of Waitsfield. No. White of Bethel. No. Winter of Ludlow. Wood Waterbury. No. Yakavoni of Morristown. No. Burrows of West Windsor. Berta Cabot. Christie of Hartford. Lamont of Morristown. Logan of Burlington. McGuire of Rutland City. Morris of Springfield. Nielsen of Brandon. Olson of Starksboro.
For purpose of explanation, member from Brattleboro.
Madam Speaker, I vote no to protect the integrity and solvency of our pension and education funds for our hardworking school staff now and into the future.
Members, please listen to the results of your vote. Those voting yes, 49. Those voting no, 91. The nays have it, and you have declined to amend the bill. Now the question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Are you ready for the question? If so, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and third reading is ordered. Now we'll turn to House Bill 482, which is an act relating to the Green Mountain Care Board Authority to adjust a hospital's reimbursement rates and to appoint a hospital observer. The bill was introduced by the Committee on Health Care, and the member from Essex, Representative Black, will speak for the committee. Please listen to the second reading of the bill.
H 482, an act relating to Green Mountain Care Board Authority to adjust a hospital's reimbursement rates and to appoint a hospital observer.
Member from Essex.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Today I'm bringing you H 482, an act relating to the Green Mountain Care Board's authority to adjust a hospital's reimbursement rates and appoint a hospital observer. I am going to cut right to the chase and explain to you why your Committee on Healthcare has introduced this bill. Vermont's largest and only domiciled health insurer, Blue Cross Blue Shield of Vermont, is at imminent risk of becoming insolvent and unable to pay claims. The solvency of a health insurer is measured by its risk-based capital, RBC ratio. The Vermont Department of Financial Regulation maintains that Blue Cross Blue Shield's target RBC ratio should be between 590 and 745%. At an RBC ratio of less than 150%, the Vermont Department of Financial Regulation is required to step in and order Blue Cross to take corrective actions. Corrective actions may involve limiting risk by pulling out of unprofitable markets, such as Vermont's individual and small group market. Blue Cross Blue Shield's RBC ratio is currently 213%. And that is only because the company recently borrowed $30 million at an 8% interest rate. Without that infusion of capital, which comes at a hefty interest rate, which Vermont ratepayers will be paying, Blue Cross Blue Shield would be below the 150% threshold. Any further deterioration in Blue Cross's financial condition will have disastrous consequences for patients and healthcare providers in Vermont. Patients will be at risk of losing coverage, and that would be over 70,000 Vermonters losing their insurance coverage with no other commercial options to purchase. And providers and hospitals will be at risk of not being paid for the services that have been rendered, either because Blue Cross Blue Shield can't pay the claims or because the patient is now uninsured and can't pay. Hospitals that are already in precarious financial positions would become insolvent. Community providers that currently only have a handful of days of cash on hand couldn't keep their doors open. Hospitals and healthcare providers are the largest employers in almost every single county in the state of Vermont. Every single Vermonter has an interest in avoiding these disastrous consequences. This bill allows the Green Mountain Care Board to mitigate an acute and immediate threat to Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Vermont's solvency by reducing the reimbursement rates that Blue Cross pays to Vermont hospitals that are in a healthy enough position to accept lower reimbursements. The bill is tightly limited in both its scope and time and is aligned with existing regulatory schemes. In short, the bill gives the board, which already regulates hospital rates, a tool that can be used to avoid the disastrous consequences to our health system if Blue Cross's finances further deteriorate. Currently, hospitals can seek mid-year rate increases from the Green Mountain Care Board, and the board has in the past approved many requests from hospitals for mid-year rate increases when those hospitals have had less than anticipated patient revenues. However, health insurers do not have the ability to change their premiums mid-year, even in situations like we're seeing currently, where Blue Cross Blue Shield lost over $60 million just to a claim surge. If it's fair to increase rates mid-year for hospitals that are facing financial difficulties, then it is also fair to allow hospital rates to be adjusted downward to mitigate a serious threat to the solvency of Vermont's largest insurer. This bill would also allow the Green Mountain Care Board to appoint an independent observer in order to help with compliance in the hospital budget process. Currently, the Green Mountain Care Board has 3 full-time equivalent positions working on hospital budget analysis. With this staffing, the Green Mountain Care Board can work only high level on individual hospital budgets and trends, but there is not staffing to look closely into issues where a hospital has made material misrepresentations or is non-compliant with its established budget. An independent observer would allow the Green Mountain Care Board to continue to perform its core regulatory functions while working on system-wide transformation efforts with the current staffing for core hospital budget work. Green Mountain Care Board budget orders have also recently raised concerns about a lack of credibility in the representations in certain hospital budgets. An observer in place in such situations would ensure that decisions that are made that impact our system are made on credible, reliable information, which would promote fairness and consistency across the system. The health system has seen an increase in hospitals out of compliance with their budget orders, and this has led to less predictability for compliant hospitals, insurers, commercially insured Vermonters, and the entire health system. Having an observer would assist hospitals in complying with their budget orders, and it would ensure predictability, fairness, and consistency for the entire system as it tries to remain solvent and available to provide the critical care our communities need. I'm going to do a pretty comprehensive walkthrough. I really want to ensure everyone understands exactly what the bill does, but also what it doesn't do. Section 1 adds 18 VSA 9384 and authorizes the Green Mountain Care Board to reduce the reimbursement rates that a domestic health insurer pays to one or more Vermont hospitals if the domestic health insurer's risk-based capital level has triggered a regulatory action level event. It specifies that the Green Mountain Care Board may also reduce the reimbursement rates paid by a domestic insurer to a Vermont hospital if the hospital has more than 135 days cash on hand and had a positive operating margin in the previous fiscal year, or is a member of a hospital network that at the consolidated network level has more than 135 days cash on hand or had a positive operating margin in the previous fiscal year, or both. As a safeguard, it prohibits the Green Mountain Care Board from ordering a reduction in reimbursement rates that decreases a Vermont hospital's projected days cash on hand or a hospital network's projected days cash on hand to below 125 days. It defines a hospital network as a system comprising 2 or more affiliated hospitals, but that may also include other health professionals and facilities, that derives 50% or more of its operating revenue at the consolidated network level from Vermont hospitals, and in which the affiliated hospitals deliver healthcare services in a coordinated manner using an integrated financial and governance structure. Section 2 amends 18 VSA 9456, which is the hospital budget review process. It amends subsection C to require the Green Mountain Care Board, when establishing a hospital's budget, to reconcile any significant deviation in the hospital's revenue during the previous fiscal year in excess of the hospital's budget order. It amends subsection F to allow the Green Mountain Care Board to, on its own initiative, adjust the commercial reimbursement rates payable to a Vermont hospital mid-year to ensure that the hospital operates within its budget. It amends subsection G to allow the Green Mountain Care Board to appoint an independent observer where a hospital has made material misrepresentations to the Green Mountain Care Board or is materially non-compliant with its established budget, and where the Green Mountain Care Board determines that appointing an independent observer is in the public interest. And it allows the Green Mountain Care Board to direct an independent observer to monitor the hospital's operations, obtain information from the hospital, report its findings and recommendations to the Green Mountain Care Board, and it gives an independent observer appointed by the Green Mountain Care Board a right to receive copies of all materials related to the Green Mountain Care Board's review of the hospital's budget, and requires hospitals to provide information requested by an independent observer. It then requires that an independent observer appointed by the Green Mountain Care Board to share that information provided by the hospital with the board and the Office of the Healthcare Advocate. It also prohibits an independent observer appointed by the board from otherwise disclosing any confidential or proprietary information that was obtained through the hospital, from a hospital. It then authorizes the board to order a hospital to pay for some or all of the costs of the independent monitor. Section 3 is prospective repeal. It sunsets or prospectively repeals the independent hospital observer provisions on January 1st of 2030. Section 4 are the effective dates, and the effective date is that it takes effect on passage. I want to be very clear. Nothing in this bill allows the Green Mountain Care Board to go into a hospital and control how a hospital operates. It only allows an observer, and that observer is given the appropriate information that they need. I will also reiterate that the Green Mountain Care Board may only appoint an independent observer in cases where a hospital has made material misrepresentations to the Green Mountain Care Board or is materially non-compliant with its established budget, and where the Green Mountain Care Board determines that appointing an independent observer is in the public interest. We could spend days, weeks, months discussing how we got here, and we are having those discussions. We have really important work to do to stabilize and create a comprehensive and affordable healthcare system in Vermont that meets the needs of all Vermonters. We are doing that work. We have long-range goals, medium-term solutions, and even short-term plans. This bill is none of that. This is a bill that addresses an immediate crisis. This is a tool that is needed to respond to an emergency. It is the hope that the tools provided in this bill will never, ever be utilized. Your Committee on Healthcare doesn't want that. The Green Mountain Care Board doesn't want that. The Department of Financial Regulation doesn't want that. And our 14 hospitals don't want that. But if the situation arises where we need to take immediate action to help sustain our one and only commercial health insurer domiciled in Vermont, we need that tool to be available immediately in our toolbox. We heard testimony from the chair of the Green Mountain Care Board, Deputy Commissioner of Insurance, Department of Financial Regulation, the Deputy Chief Counsel, Office of Legislative Counsel, the Vice President of Finance for the Vermont Association of Hospitals and Health Systems, and the Chief Healthcare Advocate, Office of Healthcare Advocate, Vermont Legal Aid. Your committee vote on H482 was 10-0-1, and we kindly ask for the body's support.
The question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Member from Northfield.
Madam Speaker, I'm rising because I think that the member presenting this bill was far too gentle and kind in explaining the circumstances behind the crisis facing the insurer in question. What may not have been completely clear to members of the body is why Blue Cross Blue Shield is facing insolvency. Were they wasting money? What happened to all that money coming in from those ever-increasing premiums? And the fact is that over the past several years, they have been paying out more for claims, for the needs of the recipients of insurance that come in to meet those healthcare needs that people are paying their premiums for. So the costs are greater than what they're able to receive in premiums. Why is that true? That is true in leading cause because of the high costs of hospital rates, and very specifically from our large hospital network that has prices that are out of step nationally with equivalent hospitals and hospital networks. Madam Speaker, I think many members received a recent email from an advocacy group that used the term eye-popping in terms of the $800 million profit from commercial insurance in the last reporting year. And yet, at the same time, that same network said it couldn't cut prices. It couldn't afford to cut prices in order to continue primary care practices in central Vermont and access to a psychiatric inpatient unit in central Vermont. They couldn't afford to do that, and yet we have this crisis in care and this extraordinarily high price rate from that network. So I applaud the work of your committee for healthcare, and I urge passage of the bill.
The question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Are you ready for the question? If so, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and third reading is ordered. Next, we'll turn to House Bill 483, which is an act relating to the expansion of existing income tax credits. Member from Woodstock. Member from Woodstock.
Madam Speaker, I would move that we postpone action on H 483 for 2 legislative days.
The member from Woodstock moves that we postpone action on House Bill 483 until Tuesday. Are you ready for the question? If so, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and you have postponed action on House Bill 483 until next Tuesday. Up next is House Bill 498, which is an act relating to the Vermont Economic Development Authority. The bill was referred to the Committee on Commerce and Economic Development, which recommends that the bill be amended as printed in today's calendar. The member from Whitingham, Representative Karis Duncan, will speak for the committee. And carrying an appropriation, the bill was then referred to the Committee on Appropriations, which recommends that the report of the Committee on Commerce and Economic Development be amended as printed in today's calendar. The member from Waterbury, Representative Stevens, will speak for that committee. Please listen to the second reading of the bill.
H 398, an act relating to the Vermont Economic Development Authority.
Member from Whitingham.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, H 998 or 398, my apologies, everybody, I'm very nervous. H 398 is an act relating to the Vermont Economic Development Authority. It can be found on page 896 of today's calendar or on the House Commerce and Economic Development webpage. H 398 is a strike-all amendment to Title 10 VSA Chapter 12 regarding the Vermont Economic Development Authority, commonly referred to as VEDA. This will make a number of changes in order to simplify the scope of their work and to modernize the language in the statute to match current conventions. H 398 also codifies the Vermont Sustainable Jobs Strategy into statute, which provides continuity to VEDA's authority to fund new projects outside their normal offerings, as long as those projects meet specific criteria to benefit Vermont's overall economic development. In addition to these changes, H 398 establishes a disaster revolving loan fund to offer low-interest loans to businesses in the case of a declared or undeclared disaster. This is in response to years of unprecedented weather events due to climate change that have cost Vermont millions. Timely distribution of emergency funds has proven to be a challenge in these instances. This revolving loan fund gives VEDA the ability to provide quick relief to Vermont businesses without significant barrier. H 398 is needed because VEDA is currently in the process of modernizing their management and operations. Through this process, it's become clear that the statute is needed to be updated due to a lack of clarity and in lack of ease of use. This bill will allow VEDA to implement these changes. For those unfamiliar, VEDA is a quasi-governmental entity that was created by the General Assembly in 1974 to be Vermont's statewide economic development finance lender. If I may quote from VEDA's website, VEDA's mission is to contribute to Vermont's economic vitality by providing a broad array of financial programs to enable businesses to create jobs and help advance Vermont's public policy goals. VEDA meets this mission by offering low-interest loans, financial assistance to thousands of Vermont small businesses, manufacturers, entrepreneurs, and agricultural enterprises. This creates jobs and adds vitality to Vermont's economy. The Governor and Agency of Commerce and Community Development are supportive of this bill, which I will now walk you through section by section. Section 1, definitions. This section expands the definition of eligible facility or eligible project to include endeavors related to capital improvements, to include purchases of revenue streams and other insurance projects. It no longer requires that facilities or projects be tied to the Vermont Sustainable Jobs Strategy in order to be financed. The language from the Vermont Sustainable Jobs Strategy is incorporated below in sections 280A and 280B, which codifies these eligibility requirements for the development of new programs into statute. This protects VEDA's programs in the future and this section also removes numerous definitions that are no longer necessary as they are referenced to a subchapter repealed in 2016. Section 213, authority and organization. Among technical amendments, these changes codify existing practice for the authority to elect officers from among their members. Sections 214 to 217A makes numerous technical amendments to drafting style and removes references to previously repealed sections. It removes the requirement for the executive director of the authority to make recommendations on every proposed project, and for the executive director to review and approve every loan and disbursement. It allows the review based on the authority's policies and procedures. This section also removes the requirement that any nonprofit created by the authority have 14 additional members on the board to the 15 current members that are on the board of the authority. 231, assistance to local development corporations, extends the duration of these loans from 10 years to 20 years. Section 244, bonds, allows bonds to be signed electronically. Section 253, authority projects. This amends the language to reflect projects under this section that are in the name of the authority and not in the name of the state of Vermont. Section 254, state bonds. This allows authorized representatives of the authority to sign for bonds. It shields members and staff of the authority of personal liability for bonds and contracts unless due to intentional misconduct. It removes redundant language and instead references back to previous sections where that language can be found. It also authorizes the authority to pledge security or to enter into security, insurance, and other forms of credit enhancement to purchase its bonds. Section 261 to 264 regarding direct loans. This changes in 4 sections. It removes the word mortgage and instead expands the powers of the authority to offer secured loans. Section 279, Vermont Export Finance Program. It makes technical amendments to clarify excess revenues where excess revenues are deposited under the Vermont Export Finance Program. Sections 280A and 280B, as mentioned before, the Vermont Sustainable Jobs Strategy. This takes the language from the Vermont Sustainable Jobs Strategy mentioned above in section 212 and codifies it into statute. The Section 280GG, the Disaster Recovery Loan Fund. This is a big change. This will allow the state to support small businesses when floods and damages occur. It creates a new revolving loan fund to provide the low interest loans to businesses and agricultural enterprises. It also requires the authority to consult with the Secretary of the ACCD and the Department of Agriculture on whether the funds may be made available after a disaster, unless the disaster is declared by the governor or the president. It limits interest rates to only those necessary to cover the administration of the fund. Section 234, the Vermont Jobs Fund. This makes necessary technical changes to redesignate the Vermont Jobs Fund, which is the primary fund that the authority uses to manage finances, from Chapter 3, Section 234, under Industrial Parks and Speculative Buildings, Small Business Incubator Facilities, to the general provision of Chapter 10. Section 3, Appropriations. This section identifies that $2 million be redirected from ACCD in the year FY25 to provide the newly created Disaster Revolving Loan Fund. There is an amendment from Appropriations about this. The effective date is July 1st, 2025. The committee heard from the following witnesses: the Chief Financial Officer, the Office of State Treasury, the Executive Director of the Vermont Housing Finance Agency, the President of the Vermont Bankers Association, the Director of Policy for the Vermont State's Treasurer, the General Counsel and Director of Closing at the Vermont Economic Development Authority, the Secretary of the Agency of Commerce and Community Development, the Vermont State Treasurer, the Office of the Vermont State Treasurer, and the Chief Executive Officer, again, of the Vermont of VEDA, and the Vice President of Government Affairs for the Vermont Chamber of Commerce, the Legislative Council for the Office of Legislative Counsel. The vote on this amendment was 11-0-0. And the committee respectfully asks for the body's approval.
And now for the Committee on Appropriations, member from Waterbury.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We want to thank the member from Whitingham, Appropriate Council, and JFO for coming into the appropriations earlier this week to explain this bill to us. We respectfully report that we considered the same and recommend that the report of the Committee on Commerce and Economic Development be amended by striking out Section 3, from the 2024 Acts and Resolves number 113, which was the budget last year, Section B 1100 in its entirety, and by renumbering the remaining sections to be numerically correct. We did that because there's no need for a current appropriation in this year's budget. This money was appropriated last year. It was part of a larger appropriation that originally went to just BGAP funding, and the agency requested that $2 million be peeled off that and repurposed for the use of the creation to initially capitalize the fund that's being created under this fund. We voted 11-0-0 on this amendment, and just to keep in mind that this is to capitalize the fund and that any future program costs may necessitate further appropriations beyond this initial $2 million appropriation. But certainly on behalf of flood-affected communities, we support a way to get help to businesses, even in a revolving loan form, faster than what we've experienced in the last 2 years. So that is our report.
Member from Whitingham.
Madam Speaker, the Committee on Commerce and Economic Development did hear the amendment and took a straw poll vote, and the result of that vote was 10-0-1.
The question is, shall the report of the Committee on Commerce and Economic Development be amended as recommended by the Committee on Appropriations? Are you ready for the question? If so, member from Coventry.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just want to add one little piece to this, is by talking about the revolving loan fund being set up at VITA. This is a little deviation from what we usually do with VITA. VITA is designed to be supplemental when they're loaning money. They're not in the practice of being in competition with our financial institutions. In this case, they will become slightly involved in competition, but we felt that it was necessary to assist our businesses during these disasters that we seem to be seeing more frequently. I think VITA can get the money out quicker, and I think at probably a lower rate possibly, but this is in no way our intent to make VITA part of initial financing, and no intent to make them put them in competition with our financial institutions.
The question is, shall the report of the Committee on Commerce and Economic Development be amended as recommended by the Committee on Appropriations? Are you ready for the question? If so, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and you have amended the report of the Committee on Commerce and Economic Development. Now the question is, shall the bill be amended as recommended by the Committee on Commerce and Economic Development as amended? Are you ready for that question? If so, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and you have amended the bill. Now the question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Are you ready for that question? If so, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and third reading is ordered. Members, the final bill on our action calendar for today is House Bill 461, which is an act relating to expanding employee access to unpaid leave. The bill was referred to the Committee on General and Housing, which recommends that the bill be amended as printed in today's calendar. The member from Fairfax, Representative Bartley, will speak for the committee. Please listen to the second reading of the bill.
H 461, an act relating to expanding employee access to unpaid leave.
Member from Fairfax.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. H 461 is a strike-all amendment aimed at aligning Vermont's Parental and Family Leave Act, also known as PFLA, with modern family structures, ensuring a more equitable and inclusive approach. This bill does not increase the amount of unpaid leave available, but expands eligibility, including additional qualifying reasons for leave and broadening the definition of family members. Currently, under Vermont's existing PFLA, eligible employees may take up to 12 weeks of unpaid job-protected leave for the birth or adoption of a child or a serious health condition affecting themselves or an immediate family member. I will now walk you through the key provisions of H 461. And for those of you who are following along, you can find it in today's calendar on page 915. Section 1 is the intent. The bill aims to ensure that Vermont's family leave policies are inclusive and equitable, particularly benefiting LGBTQ families, low-income workers, and individuals in non-traditional family structures. Most of the changes you'll hear in this bill are in the definitions. H 461 updates several key definitions to expand coverage and clarify eligibility. Bereavement leave permits employees to take leave within 1 year of a family member's death, including time needed for the estate settlement. and recognizing that the grieving process and administrative responsibility following a loved one's passing may extend beyond immediate funeral services. Domestic partner is now defined as an individual in a long-term domestic relationship of a spousal nature who meets specific residency, age, and legal requirements. These include must have shared a residence for at least 6 consecutive months, must be at least 18 years old, cannot be married or in a domestic partnership with another person, cannot closely be related by blood under law, and must agree to be responsible for one another's welfare. Expanded definition of family member includes children, parents, civil union, and domestic partners, grandparents, grandchildren, and siblings of both the employee and their spouse or partner. Parental leave expansions now include leave for miscarriage recovery and caring for a foster child. This is in addition to what is currently covered for childbirth and adoption-related leave. This bill also creates 2 new leave categories. Safe leave, allowing an employee or their family member who are victims of domestic violence, sexual assault, or stalking, and covers time for seeking medical care, securing safe housing, participating in safety planning, and obtaining legal protection. This bill also expands to military qualified exigency leave and covers the leave of employees dealing with a family member's active duty military service and aligns with federal provisions ensuring job security for those affected by military deployments. Section 3 of the bill discusses leave provisions. Eligible employees may take up to 12 weeks of unpaid leave per year for parental, family, safe, or military exigency leave. Up to 2 weeks of the total 12 weeks may be used specifically for bereavement leave. Employees may elect to use accrued paid leave, PTO, or short-term disability insurance to cover financial needs during their leave. Employers may require documentation. Accepted forms for safe leave include law enforcement reports, documentation from domestic violence or sexual assault assistance programs, verification for medical, legal, or counseling professionals, employee self-attestation with no further corroboration required unless mandated by law. For bereavement leave, an employer may request a death certificate, published obituary, or funeral and memorial service verification. And for military leave, documentation as specified under Federal Law 29, CFR Section 825.309. This bill also includes confidentiality protections for the employee. Private medical information related to safe leave cannot be disclosed unless permitted by law, consented to in writing by the employee, or required by a court order or applicable state or federal law. Section 4 is short-term family leave, which is already part of our current leave law. There are no substantive changes except to reflect the updated definition of family member. Section 5 discusses stalking and sexual assault hearing, and this is only in the bill as it removes specific provisions for stalking and sexual assault hearings since they are now encompassed under the safe leave language. Section 6 is the effective date, which is July 1st, 2025. The committee heard testimony from the bill sponsor, Vermont Businesses of Social Responsibility, the Vermont Chamber of Commerce, the executive director of Mosaic Vermont, and legislative counsel. H.4 61 modernizes Vermont's PFLA by expanding eligibility for unpaid leave, broadening family definitions, and ensuring that employees can take leave for bereavement, domestic violence, and military service-related issues. The bill strengthens protection for vulnerable populations while maintaining clear employer guidelines. This bill highlights the legislators' commitment to equity and inclusivity by ensuring that all Vermonters can access necessary leave benefits without discrimination. The House Committee on General and Housing passed H 461 on a 9-1-1 vote count, and we respectfully request the body's support.
And now the member from Northfield, Representative Donahue, offers an amendment to the report of the Committee on General and Housing that is printed in today's calendar. Member from Northfield.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Just for context, I want to underscore, as was just reported, that the purpose of this statute is to enable the ability to take these kinds of leave and to protect the return to one's job. That is the fundamental concept and reason for doing this, in order to maintain, to hold one's job while taking one of these types of leave. Madam Speaker, I support the two key expansions in this bill, expanding those persons eligible to these different potential types of leave whenever they have this legitimate impact based on the event, regardless of whether they meet certain legal terms of their relationship. And secondly, to expand some of the types of events which legitimately should be eligible for people to be able to take unpaid leave. But I think we have to balance in that and understand and recognize what some of the effects can be if there's an expansion in the number of leaves that are requested of employers. And obviously, and by intent, if more people are eligible and more events are eligible, it will result in an increase in the number of leaves such as this. I think we all recognize, Madam Speaker, the current struggles of small businesses in our state to be able to hire employees. We know it's a crisis across the state. In my own town, in Northfield, there are 2 small businesses that routinely have to close some of their daytime hours of business because they don't have the staff. One of them is now going out of business. This bill will add to that burden if they are required to hold a job empty when they aren't able to hire in the current market somebody who is willing to take on a position that may only last for a month or 2 or 3 months because it's time limited in order to preserve the position. Madam Speaker, to try to accommodate that, I'm proposing something that would be of extremely rare use, but create an important protection for situations that could really actually result in other people out of work if a business fails because of maybe receiving repeated or duplicated requests that they simply can't handle. So, if members will turn to page 923 of today's calendar, you can follow the amendment. And the beginning is simply the context for the amended language. The context is important because this is what states that fundamental premise of the entire statute, which is that the person must be offered the same or comparable job when they come back. It must be preserved for them. And then there are 2 categories that say unless. There's some special exceptions to that requirement. The employer has to demonstrate it by clear and convincing evidence. The first one is that the job actually would have been terminated during that time, unrelated to the person's being away on leave. And the second one is when the employee had performed a particularly unique service. And based on that particularly unique service, the employer had to hire a permanent replacement as the only reasonable alternative to prevent substantial and grievous economic injury. Madam Speaker, the amendment I'm offering today parallels that, but addresses a situation where the employer is unable to find an employee willing to take the position on a time-limited basis, and that hiring a permanent replacement using the same language was the only option available to enable the employer to prevent substantial and grievous economic injury to the employer's operations. Again, as with the other exemptions, that would have to be established by clear and convincing evidence that it was the only option, that they were unable to find an employee, and that it would cause substantial and grievous economic injury. Madam Speaker, I recognize that this presents a very, very difficult balance because any kind of an exemption from the protections of this statute, for the individuals affected, it would deprive them of the protections that anyone else in their same position would receive. And Madam Speaker, I was very glad to hear when I presented this to the committee that there was input from the business community. I would note that some of that input really was focused around representing much larger businesses and perhaps not fully the voice of a business with 10 or 15 employees, where one or two people and the inability to fill those positions could be seriously detrimental. But I do understand the very difficult balance that's involved that led the committee to not feel able to support this exemption. And based on that, Madam Speaker, although I think it's very important to keep these kind of issues in mind when we take this sort of step, I would ask leave of the House to withdraw the amendment.
Absent objection, leave is granted. The question is, shall the bill be amended as recommended by the Committee on General and Housing? Are you ready for the question? If so, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and you have amended the bill. Now the question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Are you ready for that question? If so, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and third reading is ordered. Members, that completes the orders of the day. Members, earlier today, the Committee on Human Services voted out House Bill 91, which is an act relating to the Emergency Temporary Shelter Program. Carrying an appropriation, the bill is referred to the Committee on Appropriations pursuant to House Rule 35A, pending its entry on the notice calendar. Are there any announcements? Seeing none. Member from Poultney, can you please offer us a motion to adjourn until Friday, March 21st at 9:30 a.m.?
Madam Speaker, I make a motion this body stand in adjournment until Friday, March 21, 2025 at 9:30 a.m.
You've heard the motion. Are you ready for the question? If so, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes